Let's get salty!
Everyone, Zeddy here again today with a brand new video. And last week we took a look at some of the Hearthstone cards that were outright redesigned, changed from iconic cards that we know today. And today I thought we'd go over, there were some cards during the alpha and beta stages of the game before the official full-on release that were outright removed from the game. They were taken out, replaced with other cards. We went over one example of that last week with Naturalize replacing Demoralizing Roar for Druid, which gave enemy minions -3 attack this turn, which we later saw as pint-sized potion for Priest. But there's a bunch of other cards that I wanted to go over today that, again, we're in the game, we're playable at a very, very early stage that are just not found, although most of them have been remade to an extent. And if you enjoy the content on the channel, feel like I've earned your subscription, please hit that sub button down below. Give the video a like, it helps out a lot as we're on the road to 83,000 subscribers. So yeah, Naturalize replaced that Demoralizing Roar, but one of the classes that had one of the biggest changes during beta, which also has seen reworks throughout time in Hearthstone, is Priest. That saw a number of cards getting swapped out. It's pretty crazy to think that Inner Fire, one of the more iconic Priest cards of like all time, Inner Fire Priest, still a relevant meta deck in WoW to this day, although they use Bless because it's usually better, but sometimes they run both. This card was not in the very early stages of Hearthstone. This card actually replaced Prayer of Fortitude, a 1-mana spell, give your minions +1/+1. And I like how it even says here, like +1 attack, 1 health, in case you didn't know, but early on stages of Hearthstone try to be, I guess, more clear. But yeah, this just doesn't make a lot of sense in the Priest that we know and love today, where you don't really go super wide. You don't want to buff your board. You know, the +1/+1 doesn't make a ton of sense. And obviously this card has been remade in the past, with Mark of the Lotus being the best comparable for Druid, doing literally the exact same thing. And overall, I guess you could look at the Seawig or the Naga card that originally added +1/+1 to 1 minion you could repeat, and then it got buffed. But regardless, it definitely for the better, as Inner Fire has been just slightly more iconic than Prayer of Fortitude likely would have been. Lightspawn is another card that was not originally in the game, and used to be 4 mana with 5 health, I think. I don't remember if it was 5 or 4 health at 4 mana. Regardless, this got buffed at one point. Never a super meta card, kind of has an interesting ability of like you Inner Fire it, and it doesn't necessarily work in certain situations. The card that used to be in place for this would probably be insane today. Like, it'd be really good considering every deck has a full hand these days, and it was called Mental Collapse, a 2-mana spell that would deal 1 damage to the enemy hero for each card. I like how it specifies in his hand. There'd be some triggering going on right now with that type of wording. I'm sure that would have got changed. Plus, what if you're facing Valera? It doesn't really make a lot of sense. Regardless, can you imagine that in today's game against Rogue, where they're holding like 9-10 cards every turn? 2 mana, deal 10, and you can like amplify it, expel damage, and you think Mind Blast was good, although early on, I don't know how good this would have been, but again, really polarizing style of card. You're facing like a handlock and control deck. I definitely understand why they didn't keep this around, but my goodness, Priest would have been a powerhouse in certain metas with this card around, and I feel like it might have been pretty complained about. So yeah, Mental Collapse did make it, and even the art, I love the art. It's like how I feel when I play Hearthstone these days. It's like, pulling my hair out. And believe it or not, for Priest, Shadow or Death was another card that was not included in the base game of Hearthstone. Instead, there was a card that just makes like no sense at all in Priest, and a card that's not been remade that I can think of, a card called Fade, a 2-mana spell. You would give your minions taunt and draw a card. What says Priest more than giving your minions taunt and also card draw outside of like Powered Shield? Pretty rare. I guess Dorshire Cleric, they had some card draw. Regardless, Fade just didn't make much sense. And again, the card hasn't been remade, although if it was made today, it'd be like 2 mana, summon a taunt minion, and then for every taunt minion on the board, like draw an extra card or something, right? It'd be way more busted than this. But overall, yeah, this card has faded into obscurity. Oh my god, why did I do that? Holy Fire, another card for Priest that did not start in the base game. Priest got a lot of changes, with the card it replacing actually having the same artwork in Greater Heal, a 2-mana spell, a lot of 2-mana spells as well that they replaced. Restore 2 health to a character for each card in your opponent's hand. So unlike the damage spell, this one would just heal you a lot if your opponent had a lot of cards. So they have like 10, you could heal for 20, which would have been unprecedented healing back in the day. Although most decks back in the day didn't have a ton of cards in their hand, definitely could have been pretty polarizing and just, yeah, could have been a lot of healing. Pretty hard to kill those priests, and ultimately placed it for some healing, but also damage. And the last priest card that was not in the initial build of the game was Temple Enforcer. Originally a 6-mana 6/6, they buffed it to 5. We like to call it Tempo Enforcer because Zeph loved to offer this card, but again, not originally in the game. The card that it replaced is actually kind of in the game now, and it is for Priest with the same name, but Penance, which was originally 3 mana, deal 3 damage, so this could go face, unlike the Penance we eventually got, restore 3 health to your hero. So we eventually got this for 2 mana. It couldn't go face, so they had the right idea, and they replaced it with a card that's significantly worse. Yes, it didn't feel super comfortable with Penance, you know, with that ability, and I guess it would have scaled. It would have scaled with spell damage, actually. Only the damage would have. But with Lifesteal being introduced, they eventually remade this card. I believe Saviors of Old Doom. It took a while for this card to come back, although Drained Soul exists for a Warlock as well, which is a take on this card. So regardless, it's one of the ones that was taken out, but eventually put back in, and it's kind of a staple, or at least has been a staple in a ton of Priest decks since it did come back. Shaman had some mana cheat early on in Classic with Farsight, but this card was not in the original version of the game, but there was some mana cheat available, and probably a good idea that they didn't include this card, because I can only imagine what it could have led to, because Farsight used to be Mana Spring Totem, a 4 mana 0/1 totem that reads your cards cost 1 less. So that could stack if you copy this effect, right? With like, I guess back in the day, like Faceless, but you know, like Splitting Axe now and all of that, right? You have cards like that in Standard and Wild. I don't know. This card is really spooky. You know, 4 mana 0/1 is pretty fragile, but the fact that it can make cards cost 0, it's mass mana cheat if it sticks around, or you play it a little bit later and take advantage of it. I'm just sure that they just did not feel comfortable with this style of card, and we've seen how these style of effects can be pretty broken, even if it's on a 4 mana 0/1. And Farsight has definitely seen play throughout the years. Not so much anymore. 3 mana draw card. Who cares anymore? Even if you get -3 mana. But Mana Spring Totem, I wonder if the even Shamans would have abused that. Okay, probably not, but still pretty darn scary. Shield Slam, another iconic warrior card. It's always been the meme about Shield Slam. What if it could just go face, you know? And then they made Odin, and we saw what that's like. Yeah, he'd die. Well, originally in Hearthstone, they kind of had a death wish with this style of card. Shield Slam was replaced by a card called Death Wish, where your hero would lose all armor and get +1 attack this turn for each armor loss. So you got 30 armor, you play this, you lose all of it, and you can go face if there's no taunt in the way. This is absolutely an OTK style of card, or just a insane tempo damage. Can you just think, like, you know, just Armor Smith back in the day, shield block. Now you got all these armor cards, and that, imagine if this card was in the game right now. It would be outright broken. And even in the very early days, kind of saw that, and it was completely removed from the game. Although I gotta say, the artwork's actually pretty rad on this one. Vanaheimane, a very iconic hunter card, was not in the original build of the game. Originally a 6 mana 6/5, you get those two hyenas. The joke back in the day was like, you got to run 2 of these. It's like a legendary minion. It's so much value. It's so good. And now would you ever even think about playing Vanaheimane? Even in Arena, it's not amazing. But this card was not originally in the game, as I said. The card that was in the game was Dark Speared Hunter, a 2 mana 2/2 minion. Whenever you play a beast, the beast gains +1 +1. This card was eventually remade for Druid as Addled Grizzly, and then there was like the Spirit card, I think, for Hunter that would give beast buffs in that. So there's been some ticks on this. This would, you have to play a beast to give the buff, but overall, I don't know how amazing this would have been. Didn't work with like Unleash the Hounds, but you could play it like Starving Buzzard, I guess. But Savannah Highmane, I gotta say, way better card, way cooler card, and Darkspear Hunter was definitely re-explored down the road in multiple ways. Single Thorn Tiger, 5 mana, 5/5 beast, looked a little bit different very early on in the game. Fundamentally, I guess the same style of minion. It was not a Stranglethorn Tiger though, it was a Jade Fire Satyr, which is a 5 mana 5/5 stealth demon. And I gotta say, good change mainly because there's way more beast synergies than demon synergies, and I don't think that card probably would have ever seen play. Maybe, you never know, but Stranglethorn Tiger absolutely did see play, mainly due to the fact it was a beast with, you know, stealth, which is pretty nice. And the last card we will go over is Spiteful Smith. Not exactly the most iconic classic card out there, a 5 mana 4/6, which originally was an Enrage minion, but they got rid of her Enrage, where your weapon is +2 attack while this is damage. It was like an okay pick in Arena for the most part. But originally, this card was not in the game, and it replaced Dark Summoner, a 5 mana 5/3 minion. The first minion you play each turn costs 3 less. Similar to like the Pite Sign Summoner card, this seems like it'd just be really bad because it'd have to stick on the board to get that mana cheat, and it's a 5 mana 5/3. It's likely going to die, and now we have Pirates that you just play, and your next card costs 3 less. So yeah, things have changed just a little bit in Hearthstone. Anyways, let me know what you think about any of these cards. Would you like to see any of them come back? Do you think they would have been cool? Or just, yeah, they probably made the right decisions and axed and replaced a ton of these cards. Anyways, if you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. Have a great day and stay salty, my friends.